All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello. My name is Darius Anucauskas, and I'm the Chief Market Analyst here at Markets.com. And today is Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, the 2nd of July. Look, I wanted to quickly do a little quick crypto update, basically to see how June has ended and basically what can we expect in July from both fundamental and technical analysis. So before we jump into all that, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So yes, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and should not be considered as such. This material should not be taken as an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. I'll give you a few seconds to read the rest. I'm not going to disappear anywhere. So yes, basically the crypto world is at an interesting spot right now. I think why an interesting spot? Because again, some cryptos are not in line with each other as we are kind of used to see those. Also, look, before we jump in, also just a quick mentioning of our Markets.com website, which you can always check out for more information about us. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look. And the first one, as always, the US dollar. Well, sorry, not as always, but the first one in this case will be the US dollar because well, we're looking at those cryptos that are denominated in US dollars, so that's why I think it's quite fair to look at the DXY. And lately, well, specifically today, we're seeing a nice little reversal here. Yesterday, we formed something of like a reversal candle here. What's it called? The spinning bottom or something like that. There's a spinning top and a spinning bottom. Yeah, I wouldn't call it like a doji, no, because it has a bit of a body here. So yeah, it's more like it's not even like like an evening star or something like that. So it's basically more of like just a spinning bottom or something like that, if you want to call it. Let me just double check what's yeah. Let me just have a look at this one. But I think it's one of those, yeah, spinning top, and actually, what's the word for that? Bearish spinning top candlestick. There we go. That's the one. So again, maybe it's that one. Again, maybe it's not. However, what we're seeing is a reversal. Is a reversal. But can this reversal be sustained? That's a good question, because again, in general, I said it before in my webinars. You can check out those Markets Talk on our YouTube channel. At the moment, we could see a little bit of a retracement. That's fine, given that we are getting the U.S. job numbers this whole week, and especially going into tomorrow when we're going to get the NFP. And just remember that on Friday the U.S. is closed. That's why we're getting everything on Thursday. Yeah, in general, I'm still bearish on the US dollar unless we start popping above this this downside line. Then, yes, I will start considering slightly higher levels. But anything up until here, up until this downside line, still for me is a little bit of a retracement before a little small correction before another possible leg of selling. So in general, I'm kind of targeting that 95 territory. I think it's quite doable, and in general, I think that we are looking at weaker dollar because the White House currently favors that. Because again, it makes their exports a little bit more attractive to in the global arena. And makes those imports a little bit more expensive. So, yes, for the U.S. consumer, of course. So that's why right now, like I said, the U.S. dollar is kind of drifting lower. We are seeing the crypto world also reacting to the fact that the U.S. dollar is on the weaker side and overall, and we're seeing some positivity. Now, look. In general, I think that Bitcoin here is pushing to the upside. It reversed nicely here, and I said before that I will get a little bit more comfortable with the upside if we do clear this downside line, taken from the highest point of May of this year. And if we do that, then yes, it opens the door towards the current all-time high at around 112, but then The question is where next? If we do clear the 112, where next? Well, a while ago I've discussed this idea, and I'll probably get back to it again with the help of my Fibonacci extension. So I'm measuring it again. I have to say this, that all these Fibonacci levels in a way are kind of subjective because it depends from which dots you connect. So for somebody it's this, for somebody it's that. So it kind of totally goes on your analysis and your own take. But for me, like I said, I'll explain from my side. So I'm taking the reason, kind of this strong reversal from here, which we had in August of 2024, and we marked this one. We marked the highest point of 2020, or sorry, January of 2025. Then we connect the lowest point, the current lowest point of this year, which is around here in April. And there we go. We get the beautiful 61.8% here, just bang on the area which where the current all-time high is. So it's near that. So I talked about this before, and I said that I'm going to be targeting that one if we do pop above the 50% here on the Fibonacci extension. Boom, fantastic. It was a good result here. Now, if we do, I'm once again, I'm going to target that 112 territory ish, roughly. But if we do clear that, because it will confirm a forthcoming higher high, then the question is where next? Well, this is where we scroll down here a little bit, and this is what we see. So we see this line here, the blue one, and that's roughly around the 78.60 zone, and basically that's roughly around the 122 mark. Doable for Bitcoin? Yes, in a way it could be doable. So if we're following, like I said, the technical picture here, and if we believe that the US dollar will continue declining, so people might, like I said, enjoy the fact that the crypto bulls could potentially enjoy this moment and kind of, justify also the nice push higher. There are some positive reports coming out that there's a shift of funds into Bitcoin ETFs by major companies. For example, some companies even which are going for an IPO when they're declaring their accounts. They can show, they're showing, for example, that they have a substantial amount of funds, of company funds sitting in a Bitcoin ETF. So yes, this is kind of in a way it seems like a new trend right now. So the crypto ETFs, the Bitcoin and the Ethereum ETFs are actually attracting a lot of people, a lot of attention, a lot of companies, and potentially, like I said, it could lead to some higher levels here on Bitcoin. So again, everything is still up in the air. Don't get me wrong; it can all backfire very easily. However, we're approaching the market, the crypto market, from that perspective right now. And like I said, I'm looking at the technicals here as well, and I'm seeing that there is some sort of positivity, but I need that confirmation break. So I need to see a push above the 108,800 zone right here. If I can get that move, that's great. I'll go to the upside. I'll go for the current all-time high, and if we clear the 112 zone, now that's where the beautiful thing happens, the 78.60. That's what I'm going to target next. Let's see, of course, let's see if that's going to happen. For the downside, my downside scenario here will be from this 50% on the Fibonacci extension, the 104,340 here, which is the 50% on this Fibonacci extension. It coincides also nicely with the 50-day EMA, so in a way a break below that could attract a few more sellers into the game. Let's have a look at Bitcoin Cash, which has been performing quite well recently, but I do like Bitcoin Cash. I think it's an awesome one, but look how well the 500 level is kind of acting as a nice magnet. So we did overshoot that, we surpassed that, and look at this. Now we're flirting with that 500 zone. We're still above it, so in a way, if it still continues to trade above that 500, we're kind of somewhat positive. I'll get more positive if we clear the current highest point of July, which is around the 527 zone. Now, if we take a look at the monthly candle here and the monthly chart, you'll see that for 3 months in a row, we had great spectacular movement here to the upside after we reversed from that kind of 300 zone, 300 territory. Great move, great result. Would you say like it's a good moment to buy right now. Again, again, for everybody it's a different thing. Depends on for how long you're sitting in this. Is it more of a trade, or is it more of an investment? So if I'm looking at the monthly chart right here, if I draw this downside line, you can say that, hey, we could still move here towards that 560 zone somewhere, test this area 570, maybe somewhere around here, until we hit this downside line. So but I think that there could be a bit of a retracement first before actually traveling towards that downside line again, if we will travel to that downside line. So what I'm looking at here, and if I'm going to apply my beloved Fibonacci, but this time not the extension but the retracement, so I'm taking this area right here where we were in the beginning of April, and I'm drawing it from that low to the current highest point of July. Then we'll see that maybe we could see a retracement back maybe towards this area right here somewhere, 460, something like that, maybe a little bit lower, but lower, then we're talking about 420 area ish. Look, I think it would be a great retracement if it wants to still travel higher towards this downside line, which it has a place to be. But again, like I said, it's a moment. It's a little bit of a tricky moment. So that's why I'm having this Fibonacci retracement on the chart. But am I really counting on it? No, not really, because the problem which I have here is that we're actually not far from this downside line. So what about, let's say, just traveling straight away to the upside, testing this downside line, and then correcting lower a little bit, maybe closer to the end of the month, so maybe the first half of the month could be very positive, but then maybe something happens. As we know, nowadays the market is very unpredictable. Political arena is also very, very unpredictable, so anything can happen, and we could see a reversal back down. But again, at this point, everything seems to be still somewhat positive. So maybe, like I said, it could go higher. But for that, I need to see a clearance of the 527.28 zone right there. Very quickly on Ethereum, just to see what's happening here. This one's the poor thing. He is still oscillating around its EMAs here in the 50, the 100, and the 200. That's what I was saying this morning in my Markets Talk webinar on YouTube, that if we do pop above the 2,520.21 zone right here, then yes, this is from where I will consider a move higher a little bit, and then we'll go from there. For the downside, a drop below the 100-day EMA is something that we need here. If we do drop below that 100-day EMA, then yes, great, I'll consider some moves to the downside. Very quickly on Ripple. Now Ripple is interesting. It's very close. It's still above the 200-day EMA, so that's a positive. Yes, it's slightly below the 50 and the 100, but that's okay. The 200-day EMA seems to be kind of a stronger indicator here. But in a way, somebody might say, hey, we're looking quite bullish here. But for the bullishness, I would actually wait for a break of this downside line. At the moment, we know that the SEC and Ripple are trying to settle the case, the long battle which they had, and I think that with their Ripple is kind of okay to pay a few million here and there. The SEC is willing to drop the case. However, I think that now they're going into politics a little bit, and I think that the judges are not really. I think they want to penalize at least someone, in this case, but. Okay, we'll see what happens there. So at the moment, that's why the Ripple is kind of still subdued. I mean, it's trying to push higher, but again, these little issues, it seems like that the case is still not finalized yet. Although there is a very bright light at the end of the tunnel for Ripple Labs. Litecoin, very quickly. This one's resting nicely on this area of support around this 83.30 zone. So hey, as long as we stay above that, I will continue targeting the upside, but I think that it's better just to wait for a push above all these EMAs here and then kind of do something about it. So basically a push back above the 90 zone somewhere there could attract a few more buyers. Now Dogecoin, struggling with this barrier, the 0.1682, and well, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm bearish, no, because for me, To become bearish, actually, I need to see a drop somewhere below this territory right there, the 0.142829. Then I'll consider forthcoming lower low, and yep, we'll go from there. For the upside, I would like to see a move actually above one of the, well, actually maybe probably the 100-day EMA is a good sign here. If we do push above the 100-day EMA, then wherever it's going to be, then yes, I will consider some higher levels. At this point, it's a little bit too close, so no. Polkadot is resting comfortably on the 3.25 zone right here on this hurdle. So we did surpass that at the end of June, but as you can see, this hurdle seems to be working out nicely, which is the lowest point of April here. And yeah, I mean, there could be a chance for this one to push higher. However, as we said before, with Bitcoin, a break of a trend line is needed. And in this case here as well, a break of a trend line is needed. If we can get that break, wonderful. I'll consider some higher areas. But the only problem is that there is a little bit of negativity surrounding Polkadot. So if somebody is saying that, it could be like a dying crypto. Look, I wouldn't say this is like, a good investment or anything, but in terms of like a speculative asset, it could be an opportunity, But again, never put your eggs into one basket. And again, like I said, it's really, you need to kind of approach this very carefully because again, you have to evaluate the risks that this could easily, fall off the cliff because if suddenly we have more negative news, negative headlines coming out. So for example, you could see all other cryptos rallying, but this one is not. So, you kind of get the picture, right? So be careful with this. But if we start falling below the three zone, the psychological 3 level, well, I think this is not a very good sign for Polkadot, especially if other cryptos would be rallying at that time. And finally, Tron, very quickly on that one, and this one is, yep. It's at an interesting spot. Look, I mean, it rebounded from my highlighted zone here, the support zone, which is roughly around the 0.2660, something like that zone here. Look, we're still overall above the EMAs, so that's a positive. However, am I getting very bullish? No, because I need to see at least a pop above the 0.2950 territory somewhere around here in order to get comfortable with the upside. And only then, because the forthcoming higher high will be confirmed. For the downside, a drop below the 100-day EMA for me would be required in order to shift my attention to some lower levels. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree or not? I just tried to kind of, like I said, express my own views. But look, your views are always welcome. So please do share your views on this. And what do you believe? What do you think? And if you have grounds to support that. So, but. Yeah, thank you very much for watching and listening. As always, I really appreciate your time, your views, your likes, your comments. As always, as I keep on saying, stay safe, have your stop losses in place, risk only what you can afford to lose, don't overtrade, and everything will be fine. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.